Welcome to Zodiac Talks Tarot, the corner of the internet where astrology meets human psychology, and where we talk to the stars as if they're old friends who've seen too much. I'm your longtime cosmic researcher, part astrologer, part philosopher, and an unapologetic believer that the sky doesn't just predict our moods, it mirrors our evolution. Here, we don't chase horoscopes like fortune cookies. We read them as living texts, coded in emotion, timing, and divine irony. So, Sagittarius, grab your metaphorical bow and a cup of something strong, because today's reading is not just another feel-good forecast, it's a wake-up call from the cosmos itself. The theme? You have been chosen for a divine mission at the end of October. And yes, I said chosen. Not influenced, not nudged, but handpicked by the universe, like the main character in a story you didn't realize you were starring in. Now, before your inner skeptic rolls its eyes, let me assure you, this isn't some fluffy celestial pep talk. This energy brewing at the close of October is serious business. It feels ancient, intentional, and oddly personal, like the universe has been stalking your Google search history and decided it's time for an intervention. You've been running all year, Sagittarius, running toward meaning, toward growth, toward whatever lies just over the next philosophical hill. That's classic you, sprint first, question later. But this time, life isn't asking for your speed, it's demanding your stillness. The last stretch of October arrives with the patience of a monk and the persistence of a parent who's done asking nicely. Something sacred is unfolding, a divine realignment that doesn't whisper politely. It kicks open the door to your destiny and says, you can come willingly, or we can do this the hard way. The cosmic stage has been set for months. Jupiter, your ruling planet, has been putting you through what psychologists might call an identity detox. You've been tested in your optimism, in your ability to keep believing when logic taps out. It's been uncomfortable, kind of like the spiritual version of switching from Wi-Fi to dial-up. Every delay, every misstep, every moment of existential exhaustion was part of the recalibration. You weren't being punished, you were being tuned. The universe has been tightening your strings so that when you finally play, your song carries truth, not noise. This is your karmic checkpoint, your soul's midterm exam. And here's the plot twist. You're passing, even if it doesn't feel like it. Now, I can almost hear your laughter through the screen, that irreverent Sagittarius chuckle that says, a divine mission? I can barely keep my plants alive. Fair. But cosmic selection has never been about who has the most stable life or the best resume. It's about vibration, about who's crazy enough to keep believing in wonder even when the lights flicker. The universe doesn't pick the tidy ones, Sagittarius. It picks the seekers, the wild hearts, the ones who fall into chaos but somehow still find constellations in the mess. You're one of them, a philosopher with a passport and a punchline. You stumble, sure, but always forward. That's why this moment belongs to you. As we approach the end of October, you might start feeling like reality is subtly rearranging itself, conversations that hit deeper, dreams that feel coded, coincidences that refuse to stay coincidences. Pay attention. That's the sound of the universe clearing its throat. From an astrological lens, this is no random energy surge. The late October transits create a window for moral realignment, a recalibration of what you stand for, not just what you do. Think of it as your internal compass getting a magnetic reset. Every Sagittarian knows that purpose is your drug of choice, but even the most righteous archer can get addicted to the chase. This is where the cosmos steps in and says, stop running. Let the truth catch up. And here's where Buddhist philosophy sneaks into astrology's back door. Growth isn't always expansion. Sometimes, it's contraction. Sometimes it's sitting in silence long enough to hear your own intuition without the background noise of ambition. The Buddha said clarity arises when the mind becomes still, and right now, that wisdom applies to you more than any other sign. You're not lost, Sagittarius. You're being emptied, not of value, but of distractions. The things that once excited you may start to feel hollow. The people who once defined you may drift away. It's unsettling, yes, but it's also sacred. The space being created isn't punishment, it's preparation. And in that space, a realization begins to dawn, slow, quiet, undeniable. You've been chosen not for comfort, but for purpose. The difference matters. Comfort is easy, purpose asks for participation. You are being realigned with your original frequency, that brave, untamed wavelength that once believed adventure could heal anything. This mission ahead of you, whatever form it takes, will not come wrapped in glitter. It will come wrapped in truth. It may ask you to lead when you'd rather hide, to listen when you'd rather talk, or to forgive when your pride would prefer a fight. It's okay to laugh through it, Sagittarius. Humor is holy medicine. But beneath the jokes, remember, this is your turning point. So as we open today's reading, know this: what stirs at the end of October isn't chaos, it's choreography. You're not drifting. You're being positioned. Every delay, every detour, every disappointment has been part of a larger map, one you were never meant to read until now. You're not being called to be perfect, you're being called to be present. The mission is unfolding, the universe is watching, and the only question left is the one written in the stars. Sagittarius, are you ready to walk through that open door, or will the cosmos have to rearrange your furniture again until you do? Either way, your story is about to begin. Let's talk about the truth, Sagittarius, the kind you can't dodge with optimism or distract with travel plans. The universe is preparing you, and preparation rarely feels comfortable. It's not punishment, it's refinement. Imagine the cosmos as a patient luthier, a maker of instruments, leaning over you with gentle precision, tightening the strings of your being until your vibration hums at the perfect frequency for what's next. You, my fiery friend, are the violin in the making, stretched, tuned, maybe even squealing a little, but about to produce music that can move mountains. This isn't the time for your usual dance around discomfort. It's the time to stand still and let the universe adjust you. That stillness, I know, feels unnatural for you. You'd rather charge through uncertainty than meditate in it. You'd rather hike the mountain than sit and contemplate its beauty. But right now, the stillness is the mountain, and the summit is inside you. The end of October, as I see it, marks what I call the Sagittarian Activation. Think of it as your cosmic software update. No, you can't skip this version or postpone it until you're in Wi-Fi range. Your fire element is being rewired, not to burn faster, but to burn truer. Something divine is about to click into place, a mission, a revelation, or perhaps a conversation that hits you like déjà vu from another lifetime. It might come disguised as a professional opportunity, a relationship that challenges your ego, or a quiet realization whispered at 2 a.m. that says, "I'm done pretending. This is who I am." And the universe nods back, finally. Because this next chapter doesn't need your curated self, Sagittarius. It doesn't want the influencer version of your soul. It wants the real one, the one with dirt under the nails, laughter lines earned from risk, and a heart that still beats faster at the idea of discovery. Now let's get into the messy beauty of it, being one of the chosen ones. It sounds so cinematic, doesn't it? Cue the orchestra, cue the destiny montage. But in reality, being chosen often feels like being thrown into the deep end of life without a map, a towel, or even a clue. You've always been a vessel for wisdom, a translator of meaning for those who can't yet speak the language of truth. But lately, that gift has felt like a burden, like carrying an encyclopedia through a thunderstorm. You've been the strong one for too long, the wise friend, the philosophical rock. You've helped everyone else decode their chaos while whispering to yourself, "Who's guiding me?" Here's the cosmic joke, it's you. You're both the traveler and the compass, the teacher and the lesson. The guide you've been searching for is arriving, not from above or beyond, but from within. You're being asked to lead again, but this time without the mask of perfection. Lead from authenticity, not from the illusion that you have everything figured out. The end of October is not about being the smartest voice in the room, it's about being the most real. There's irony here, of course. Sagittarius, humble. When Jupiter is practically your cosmic sponsor for confidence. It's like telling a lion to try being more introverted. Yet even you, my radiant archer, understand there's a difference between pride and truth. Pride performs. Truth exists. And this season, life isn't auditioning you for applause, it's handing you the script of your next evolution. You don't need to perform wisdom anymore. You simply need to live it. This brings us to the mirror moment, that delicate, slightly painful confrontation between who you are and who you've been pretending to be. You might feel an internal tug-of-war, one part of you polished, charming, socially applauded, another part whispering, "I'm exhausted." The applause feels good, but the silence afterward reveals the truth. You're not weak, Sagittarius. You're human. And no, the universe isn't punishing you, it's just peeling off the extra layers that no longer fit. It's like wearing a winter coat in summer, sure, it once protected you, but now it's suffocating you. The stripping away may sting, but it's necessary. The goal isn't perfection, it's alignment. Here's the unglamorous part of awakening, it's rarely peaceful. When illusions crack, they make noise. They break your patterns, they challenge your ego, they mess with your self-image. But beneath that crack lies something golden. The Japanese call it kintsugi, the art of repairing broken pottery with gold, not to hide the break, but to illuminate it. That's what's happening to you. Your fractures are being filled with light, your imperfections transformed into proof of resilience. And that raw authenticity, that unapologetic humanness, is what will turn you into the mentor you were always meant to be, not the sage on the mountaintop, but the guide who walks barefoot beside others and says, "Yeah, I've been there too." This transformation is not an external makeover, it's an inner realignment. You're learning that strength isn't about holding it all together, it's about knowing what to let fall apart. You're discovering that being wise doesn't mean always having answers, sometimes it means sitting quietly in the mystery and trusting that clarity will come when it's supposed to. And here's where a little humor helps. Because if you can't laugh at the absurdity of spiritual evolution, you'll end up crying through it. So laugh when the universe sends you lessons wrapped in chaos. Laugh when you lose your cool and then find your peace 5 minutes later. Laugh when life feels like a cosmic improv class where the only rule is yes, and, because that's how Sagittarius learns, through experience, through irony, through joy. So, as October's end approaches, take a deep breath. You don't need to rush. You don't need to fix everything. You don't even need to understand it all. You just need to stay honest. The divine isn't asking you to glow perfectly, it's asking you to burn sincerely. You are not being asked to become someone new, only to return to who you were before the world taught you to edit yourself. The Sagittarian Activation isn't a call to climb higher, it's a call to come home. To your truth, to your fire, to the version of you that isn't afraid to be both brilliant and beautifully unfinished. That's where the magic lives. And that's where the next chapter begins. Sagittarius, let's take a deep breath and talk about what's coming, because the stars are not whispering anymore, they're practically holding a press conference about your future. The shift you're experiencing right now isn't random, it's the universe's way of tuning you for something far bigger than short-term comfort or instant success. This moment, This oddly timed chaos is the prelude to what astrologers like me have been calling the Year of Triumph 2025, the year when Sagittarius finally stops apologizing for being different and starts leading with unapologetic authenticity. You're entering a cycle where your restless curiosity, your philosophical humor, and your refusal to sugarcoat truth will no longer make you the odd one out. Instead, they'll make you the one who reminds everyone else that life is supposed to be lived, not just survived. And trust me, you've earned it. If 2024 was a crash course in humility, 2025 will be your doctoral dissertation in freedom. Think of this October as cosmic boot camp, loud, sweaty, emotionally inconvenient, and absolutely necessary. Every frustration, delay, or why me moment right now is training your spiritual endurance. The universe is toughening you, not testing you. By early 2025, the inner work you're doing will crystallize into something that feels suspiciously like victory, not the Instagram version of victory, but the quiet, deeply satisfying kind. The kind where you wake up one morning, look around, and realize, this is what I came here to do. It's not about trophies or titles, it's about peace, that rare, golden sense of alignment where what you think, feel, and do finally start dancing in the same rhythm. And you'll mean it when you say it, because it won't come from the mouth of your ego, but from the calm, smiling center of your soul. As October draws to a close, the universe will start speaking more directly to you, through signs and synchronicities, those subtle winks that at first seem random but eventually form a pattern too elegant to ignore. You might overhear a stranger say a line that sounds like it was stolen from your journal. A dream may drag up a chapter of your past you thought was long buried. Or maybe an opportunity will appear that scares you half to death and thrills you just as much. That's usually the one you should take. These aren't coincidences, they're coordinates. Buddhism calls this dependent origination, the truth that everything in life is connected, cause and effect weaving an infinite web. Nothing stands alone. Nothing happens in isolation. So, when your plans fall apart this month, don't panic, investigate. Ask yourself, what space is being made for something new? When someone exits your life, even if it hurts, try asking, what truth am I now free to live without pretending? Because here's the cosmic secret, endings in October are not punishments. They are permissions. Permission to rest, to realign, to rewrite the story on your own terms. Every door closing is just the universe saving you from the wrong room. Now let's put the telescope down for a minute and talk psychology. Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, the planet of growth and meaning, and that means your emotional well-being depends on whether or not life makes sense to you. When it doesn't, you start spiraling, overanalyzing, philosophizing, or using humor to dodge the ache. You are a world-class expert at laughing off pain, probably while pouring another cup of coffee and calling it perspective. But here's the thing, your search for meaning isn't a flaw, it's your compass. It's what keeps you moving when others would rather stay numb. And this October, that compass is being recalibrated. For the first time in a long time, your inner direction finder is pointing not to adventure, but to authenticity. Ironically, the doorway to your next great chapter isn't knowledge, it's vulnerability. The universe doesn't want another wise Sagittarius quoting Marcus Aurelius at brunch. It wants the Sagittarius who can look someone in the eye and say, I don't know. The one who can admit, I need help, or whisper, I'm tired of performing wisdom, I want to live it. Because when you let go of the armor of certainty, something extraordinary happens. Your entire energy field shifts. You stop trying to control the narrative and start living it. You stop explaining the truth and start embodying it. Authenticity, dear Archer, vibrates higher than certainty ever could. And before we turn this into a silent meditation, let's sprinkle in a little humor, because honestly, what's a Sagittarius reading without laughter? You're ruled by Jupiter, the cosmic prankster, so of course the universe tests you in ridiculous ways. Your Wi-Fi dies right as you're giving your most profound speech on patience. Your car refuses to start on the one day you actually left the house early. You spend hours writing your perfect plan, only for life to show up in clown shoes and trip over it. That's the cosmic sense of humor you signed up for. The message behind these little disasters isn't "you're cursed." It's "nice try, Archer. Now aim higher." The universe doesn't want you to give up control because it's cruel, it wants you to laugh your way out of the illusion that control was ever real. Humor, for Sagittarius, isn't avoidance, it's alchemy. It's how you turn chaos into story, pain into philosophy, uncertainty into possibility. When the world feels heavy, your laughter lightens the atmosphere not just for you, but for everyone around you. That's your medicine this season. You don't have to stay calm all the time, that's not your brand. You just have to stay aware enough to know when to laugh, when to let go, and when to trust that everything, even the absurd, is part of your curriculum. So, as you move toward the end of October, remember this: you're not preparing for survival, you're preparing for flight. The divine timing of your life is impeccable, even when it's inconvenient. The year of triumph 2025 is not arriving to rescue you, it's arriving to reveal you. To show the world a version of Sagittarius that doesn't chase meaning anymore because you've become the meaning. The cosmic boot camp you're in right now is rewiring you to live from truth, not theory, to teach from experience, not intellect, to love from presence, not projection. The obstacles you face this month are not walls, they're weight training for the soul. By the time the calendar flips to 2025, your laughter will sound freer, your words will cut deeper, and your fire will burn cleaner. You'll no longer say, "I'm searching for my purpose." You'll simply live it. And you'll do it with that unmistakable Sagittarius grin, the one that says, "The process almost broke me, but the punchline was worth it." Sagittarius, when the great turning point arrives at the end of October, it will not sneak in quietly. It will arrive like a gust of wind that knocks over your carefully arranged ideas and forces you to look up from your routine with startled eyes. You will feel it not only in your mind but in your bones, that unmistakable vibration that says, something sacred is shifting. It might come as an unexpected invitation, a message that lands at the exact moment your heart needs it, or a sudden decision that tears open the old script of your life. Whatever form it takes, it will ask you to make a choice, between comfort and truth. And when you, the eternal adventurer, dare to choose truth over safety, everything will begin to transform. This isn't the kind of transformation that glitters like a movie montage. It's quieter and more demanding, like the slow cracking of a seed underground, unseen but unstoppable. This time, success is not about applause or validation. It's about coming home to your essence, to the unpolished version of you that existed before the world told you who to be. You were never meant to follow maps, Sagittarius, you were born to draw them. And this divine mission, whether it arrives through work, love, or sheer intuition, calls you to use your voice, your philosophy, and yes, your mischievous humor, to awaken others. But before you can awaken anyone, you must first awaken yourself. And I won't sugarcoat it, awakening is terrifying business. It feels like being thrown out of an airplane and realizing you were the one who packed the parachute. But remember this simple truth: fear is not the opposite of courage, it's the raw material from which courage is forged. Every meaningful change in your life has been preceded by a tremor of fear, and yet you've always managed to rise. This is no different. The only difference is that this time, you are not fighting to survive, you are learning to evolve. In Buddhist philosophy, enlightenment is not about escaping the world but seeing it clearly, without the fog of illusion or expectation. For Sagittarius, that means recognizing that truth doesn't need to be argued, defended, or preached. It simply needs to be lived. You don't need to convert anyone to your worldview. You just need to become the living example of it. This divine preparation you are undergoing is stripping away your intellectual armor, the witty remarks, the philosophical defenses, the endless search for the next theory to explain it all. You will no longer be the one who pretends to have every answer neatly labeled in a cosmic filing cabinet. Instead, you'll be the one brave enough to figure it out publicly, in real time, while others watch and learn. That is what real leadership looks like. Not flawless certainty, but honest exploration. And that, dear Archer, is why you've been chosen. Not because you are perfect, but because you are willing. Now, this awakening will ripple through your relationships too. Some people will celebrate your evolution, they'll say you seem lighter, wiser, more real. Others will fidget uncomfortably, as though your new clarity exposes the parts of themselves they've kept hidden. That's normal. Growth always rearranges the guest list. Not everyone who started the journey with you is meant to reach the next chapter. Don't chase what's leaving. Don't shrink to fit back into old spaces just because they once felt safe. You're outgrowing them for a reason. As your vibration shifts, you will naturally attract souls who match your new rhythm. And yes, one of them might surprise you, a new friendship or romantic connection that challenges you intellectually, spiritually, maybe even emotionally. This connection will not feel like comfort, it will feel like awakening. And that's the point. You don't need people who make you smaller, you need people who make you truer. Speaking of truth, let's talk about leadership, real leadership, the kind that matters. Sagittarius, the world needs your light right now. Not the polished, filtered version that looks perfect on paper, but the raw, messy, radiant one that burns from your center. Leadership isn't about having a spotless reputation or a perfectly rehearsed message. It's about being real enough to be relatable and wise enough to guide others through the fog. Your fire was never meant to be a decorative flame, it's a torch. It's meant to illuminate the path for those who are still afraid to walk in the dark. So as the end of October approaches, resist the urge to control what's leaving or overanalyze what's arriving. Stand still, breathe, and say to the universe, I'm ready for what's mine. The courage to receive is as sacred as the courage to act. And because you are Sagittarius, we both know that somewhere in all this seriousness, there has to be a laugh. The universe, after all, has a wicked sense of humor. You've spent years asking life the big questions, why am I here? What's my purpose? When do I get to rest? And now that the answer finally shows up, the cosmos leans over and smirks, took you long enough. That's so very Sagittarius, the philosopher who can lecture for hours about destiny but somehow misses their own appointment with it. You're the last one to take advice, the first one to give it, and still, against all odds, you always land on your feet. Maybe not gracefully, but definitely with style. Every stumble becomes a story, every wrong turn becomes material for your next insight. You fall, you rise, you laugh, and in the process, you teach the rest of us how to do the same. That's your magic. You don't just survive chaos, you make it meaningful. By the time November arrives, you'll notice something subtle but profound, a lightness in your chest, a quiet clarity in your thoughts. Not because life suddenly decided to make things easy, but because you finally stopped fighting what's already destined. Surrender, for you, isn't defeat. It's a sophisticated form of wisdom. It's the realization that the river has been flowing in your favor all along, you just kept trying to swim upstream. That moment of surrender, that conscious, grounded yes to what is, becomes your passport into the year of triumph 2025. And that year, Sagittarius, is not just another chapter. It's your arrival. It's the moment when the seeker becomes the sage, when your laughter turns into medicine, and your truth becomes your legacy. In 2025, your vision expands beyond personal growth. Your influence deepens. You'll find that people start listening to your stories not just because they're entertaining, but because they carry a quiet authority born from experience. Your humor, which has always been your armor, now becomes your gift. You'll use it to heal, to bridge, to remind others that life is not supposed to be perfect, it's supposed to be honest. You won't chase your purpose anymore, because you'll have realized that you are the purpose. The chosen ones never stumble into the light by accident, they become the light by walking through their own shadows first. And you, Sagittarius, have done your time in the dark. You're ready to shine like never before. As October closes, imagine the universe leaning close, almost conspiratorially, and asking one last question: are you ready to stop running and start rising? You'll smile, probably shrug, and say something perfectly Sagittarius-like, "Wasn't I born ready?" And the truth is, you were. You've always been the brave one, the explorer, the philosopher with dirt on your shoes and hope in your heart. This moment isn't the end of your search, it's the moment you realize that the treasure was never out there in the distance. It was always within you. So, take this as both a promise and a challenge. Let the transformation unfold. Let the old structures collapse. Laugh when things go sideways, cry when they need to, and keep your eyes on the horizon. You were made for this journey. You are not just passing through history, you are participating in it, shaping it with every choice to be honest, kind, and awake. And before you go, remember this is a conversation that doesn't end here. If this message resonates with you, if something in your heart feels like it's stretching toward the stars, then stay with us. Like this video, share it with someone who needs to be reminded of their own fire, and subscribe to Zodiac Talks Tarot. Because here, we don't just read horoscopes, we translate the language of the cosmos into the poetry of everyday life. The journey continues, Sagittarius, and the next chapter is already glowing on the horizon.